Hello, and welcome to another edition of Long Beach Treasures. I'm your host, Harvey Keller. Today we're going to do something we've never done before. We're going to rebroadcast one of our shows we did a couple of years ago. It's on the cemetery, and it profiles the Historic Society's annual cemetery tour. William Wilmore will be back, and 9 other interesting stories will be told. And to give us more information, here's Julie Bartolotto, who is the Executive Director of the Historical Society.
Right now we're at Long Beach Municipal Cemetery.
Is this owned by the city?
It's a city-owned property run by the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Marine. And now I'd like to introduce to all of you Long Beach's first urban planner, William Wilmore.
Well, howdy, folks. Nice to see ya. Some of you may not recognize me, but I'm William Irwin Wilmore. Now, some people around these parts used to call me the George Washington of Long Beach. For you see, I was the founder of what was to become the city of Long Beach. I was born in London in 1844. Me mums died when I was just a wee tot, and Pops and I came to America when I was 11. Years after his death, I became a wandering school teacher. Some people said I should have kept right on wandering, but by 1870 I ended up in San Pedro, you know, right across the bay here. And one day as I was walking down Anaheim Road on my way to Anaheim Colony, why, I stopped to rest at what is now Long Beach Boulevard. And as I sat there and I looked out over the valley, my dream of a city took shape. And although I traveled through Oregon and Washington for the next few years, I never lost sight of my dream. And in 1876, when I was 33 years old, I came back to Southern California, and I went to work for the California Immigrant Union. Now, let me digress here, folks, just for a minute here. In 1869, an event occurred that was to forever change the course of history in the West. The first transcontinental railroad, the Southern Pacific, was completed. Well, now, large landowners like Jotham Bixby, who owned Rancho Los Cerritos, they were quick to see the opportunity for land development, and they formed the California Immigrant Union. It was to encourage settlers to move and come to Southern California and buy their land. Well, sir, I became the general manager of the union, and by 1881 I had saved a few dollars, and I had a little land experience in land management, and I approached Jotham Bixby about subdividing some of his Rancho Los Cerritos property. Well, after a lot of thought and careful consideration, why, he finally agreed. And on March 1st, 1882, a new joint stock company was formed. It was called the American Colony. It was formed to purchase 4,000 acres of Rancho Los Cerritos land. It provided rich, fertile farmland, gently rolling down to the ocean, an abundance of artesian water, and it also had a $25,000 note at 6% interest, which was due in December. So I had to get busy and start selling some land. Well, you know, every colony needed a town site where people could shop and socialize, and I set aside 350 acres for my town site. Today, you would recognize those boundaries as being from the Long Beach Freeway to Alamedas, from Ocean to 10th Street. Everything north of 10th Street would have been farmlands. And I also set aside some land there at the corner of what is Ocean and Pacific for a park for many, many years. You would have called it Lincoln Park. And to no one's surprise, I named my town site Wilmore City. Well, sir, I started selling plots of land from 10 to 40 acres at anywhere from $50 to $100 an acre. I also sold town lots in Wilmore City fronting on San Pedro Bay, ranging from $50 to $100 for each lot. The land didn't move as fast as I had hoped, and so I decided to have an auction. It was set for October 31st. Halloween, don't you know? Well, you know, there was so much interest in my American colony, and maybe it was because the train ride and the lunch were free, why we had to add extra cars to the get out and push railroad to accommodate all of the people who wanted to make that 20-mile, 30-minute trip to Wilmore Station in Wilmington. Well, after the folks enjoyed a free lunch, why, many of them decided they were just going to have a day at the beach. Well, I started my auction anyhow, promptly at 1 o'clock. 35 pieces of land ranging from $25 to $105 were sold before I stopped the auction. Again, I was disappointed in the amount the land was bringing in. And I knew as soon as the promised water was added and other amenities, why the land would be much more valuable. Well, needless to say, I missed my December 1882 payment, and I also missed my June 1883 payment, and by June 1884, I knew I was not going to be able to repay my debt to Mr. Bixby, so I sold my interest in the property for $1 to a Los Angeles real estate firm by the name of Pomeroy and Mills. Well, wouldn't you know, the first thing they did was to drop the name Wilmore City. Oh, they had a lot of suggestions for some other names: Crescent City, Cerritos Beach, Long Beach. Well, they couldn't decide on a name, so they put all the suggestions in a hat, and when they drew out the winner, well, it was Long Beach. Dejected and a broken man, I traveled to Arizona. And while I was there, I suffered a severe heat stroke, which was to affect my health for the rest of my life. And when I came back to California, I was declared a pauper, and I became an inmate at the Los Angeles County Poor Farm. By 1899, I knew my health was in serious shape, and all I could think about was going back to the city that I so dearly loved, because that's where I wanted to die. I walked out of the Poor Farm, which was located over here near Downey, and I made my way back to Long Beach. When I got there, I slipped into the back of the First Methodist Church, just to get warm. I had been living in a tent, and all I had were the clothes on my back and 5 cents in my pocket. This is where I met Ida Crow. God bless that woman. She offered to take care of me and give me a place to stay. I started to weep when I found out she already had 7 children to care for. I told her if I would have known that, I would have never added to her burdens. But they took me in and they cared for me. Why, they even set up a fruit stand on Pine Avenue with friends of mine donating the fruit for me to sell. But my health was so bad that even that venture failed. Ida and her family daily turned back the attendants who came by ambulance from the Poor Farm to take me back. Ida said she promised that I could die in Long Beach and she wasn't going to go back on her promise. She didn't. My end came January 16th, 1901, at the age of 57, here in the city I so dearly loved. Mine was a poor man's grave, not even a marker to mark the site. It wasn't until 1913 that the Signal Hill Civic League purchased the marble slab identifying my gravesite. Except for a condominium and a neighborhood association, you'll not find my name on any public building, park, playground, school, or even a street sign. This is my only monument, dedicated to me not by the citizens of Long Beach, but by the citizens of Signal Hill, the farmers of my American colony. Oh, I do wish I could have lasted 2 years longer or started 2 years later, because I would have been a successful person. You see, in 1885, the Second Continental Railroad was completed, the Santa Fe. And in 1886, competition between the Southern Pacific and the Santa Fe reduced train fares from $52.50 down to $4. The land rush to California was on. Oh well, if wishes were horses, beggars would ride. Well, folks, I'm sorry my story didn't have a happier ending, but it was nice to see ya. I guess, you know, after all, dreams still do come true, because I can still look down over the hill and I can see that city down there that I founded, oh, those many years ago. You don't call it Wilmore City anymore. Today it's called Long Beach. Well, folks, thanks for stopping by. Nice to see ya. Okay, Julie, where are we going to go now?
Next, we're going right next door to Sunnyside Foundation Cemetery.
You have somebody else you want us to meet?
Yes, we have 2 other people to meet today.
All right, let's go.
Let's go.
Okay, now, Julie, where are we?
We're at Sunnyside Foundation Cemetery, right next door to the old municipal cemetery.
Is this owned by the city?
No, it's not. It's a private foundation cemetery. And by 1905, the municipal cemetery was becoming full. And so a bunch of citizens got together and established this private cemetery that boasted the best in perpetual care.
And it's still a privately owned cemetery?
Yes, it is.
Okay, now you said you had somebody else you wanted to introduce me to. Who is it?
Yes, I'd like us to talk to now Yoshikazu and Kimiko Tushiyama.
All right, that's a mouthful.
Ohio gozaimasu. Hello. We call ourselves
The
Terminal Islanders because we spent the best part of our lives on Terminal Island. Then, in December 7th, 1941, everything started falling apart. My name is Yoshikazu Tuchiyama, and I was born in 1899 in Wakayama, Japan. As a teenager, I followed my brother to California and went to work at a boarding house in downtown LA for single Japanese men. I didn't want to live that life of a single Japanese man, so after a few years, I sent for a wife.
My name is Kimiko Uyeki, and I was born in 1900, Hiroshima, Japan. My family were farmers, and we farmed rice fields. And because my father was a gambler, we were in financial difficulties. So my parents hired a baishakunin, a go-between, to find a husband for me in America. At the age of 18, I came to America as a picture bride.
Now I want to tell you, Kimiko was lucky. Many of those picture brides got married to old geezers. I was her agent.
Handsome.
Handsome.
We were living in a boarding house in downtown LA where we also worked, and that's where Japanese immigrants lived. At that time, we had 4 children, and unfortunately, our first daughter died.
Well, you know, we just weren't making it there in that boarding house, and we decided to try something new. So we saved our money and bought into a minor partnership with the Suzuki brothers on their boat, the Nancy Hanks. And we moved our family to Terminal Island. You know, there in the 20s, fishing, I had my first fishing accident. I lost an eye to a fish hook. Well, I had a glass eye from then on, and I wore sunglasses most of the time because, yeah, I'm a little vain. But you know, the kids, they'd sneak in at night to take a peek at my glass eye and that glass of water next to my bed. It was a big adventure for them.
You know, living in Terminal Island was a wonderful life. We lived in a duplex, and at that time we had 6 children. And as they got older, I worked for Van Camp's cannery. Whenever the siren of Van Camp would whistle, it could have been in the middle of the night, I would get dressed in my white uniform to meet the fishing boats. And for all those years that I was a cannery worker, my skin smelled like fish.
You know, we were poor, but it was a good life on Terminal Island. You know, we knew everybody, and we even knew a lot of their parents and grandparents from Wakayama.
It was fun. It was fun. But when the men came home from fishing, that was difficult because...
Well, you know, I'd sleep for 24 hours, then I'd go over to my friends to play cards.
Then I'd have to send our daughter Aiko over to fetch him because I wouldn't go and get him for dinner.
You know, she hated gambling so much. Well, you know, we even sent our kids to Japanese school, so they were getting their culture there. They got to roam and go to that beautiful Brighton Beach all on their own. Well, all of that, of course, changed with Pearl Harbor. We were so scared, we were so confused. You know, we loved America, and we loved our emperor. Then, on February 4th, at 4 a.m., those FBI, they came in their trench coats, they burst into my house, they dragged me away, they took me to Terminal Island, then they sent me to Lordsburg and to Bismarck, North Dakota, treated me like a spy. You know, I didn't get to say goodbye to my family, and I didn't get back to them until 1944 in the internment camp. And in the meantime, Kimiko, she had to cope without me.
Executive Order 9066, May of 1942, changed our lives. We Japanese Americans had to be interned during the war, and we were ordered that we were only allowed to take one suitcase per person. So I took my special kimonos, and my children took their clothing. First, we went to the processing center at the Santa Anita racetracks, where we stayed for 3 months. Then we went on to Poston, Arizona, till the war was over.
Now, okay, they let us out of prison. We've lost everything. We've got to rebuild our lives. And what do we wanted to do? We wanted to come back to Fish Harbor on Terminal Island. But it was gone. The Navy had taken over the whole place. Brighton Beach was gone.
It was horrible. But fortunately, that our sons were in the military. Remember, Hideo was
in the 442nd, the most decorated battalion in all of U.S. history.
And Teruo?
He was a paratrooper. And they survived, even though they were in the thick of the fighting. And because of them, we qualified for
the Cabrillo Housing Project. We were the lucky ones.
And I was lucky. I got to go back to work with the Suzuki brothers. Of course, it was a rented boat by then. And we all went to work and saved our money.
And I went back to Van Camp's Cannery.
And we bought our first house over there on the west side.
Remember Esther and Pacific Coast Highway?
Yeah, we were so proud.
It was lovely.
And we built a new Japanese-American community over there on the west side, because it was about the only place we could buy houses in Long Beach.
Had my favorite market.
Yeah, barber shop, garage, the Harbor Community Center, the credit union. And then, you know, life was getting better. We had our friends around us. Then I had my second fishing accident. My body got caught in a wrench. I was helicoptered to the Marine Hospital in San Francisco. I got to come home, but I never recovered, and I died in 1954.
I continued to work at Van Camp's after the war, and Van Camp's hired all nationalities. That was wonderful, my co-workers. Then at the age of 65, I retired, and I was able to enjoy all my grandchildren. And there was one thing that I instilled in my children and my grandchildren was the Japanese heritage, the values of behaving with no shame to family, to being trustworthy, and also to be gracious and generous.
And always tell the truth.
Always. And our first granddaughter, Joanne Ishimine, was the first Asian American woman to be a newscaster on Channel 7 here in Los Angeles.
Now, I got to tell you quickly something that happened that our children did after we died. They went to the government and started a movement called Redress and Reparations. And in 1988, Congress and the President apologized to all Japanese Americans who'd been interned without ever going to trial. And each of the living people was given $20,000 as part of the apology. Now, of course, we were already gone. We'd already joined our ancestors. But even from the grave, we were proud. Arigato.
Gozaimasu.
Well, Julie, that ought to give our viewers a good sample of what to expect on the cemetery tour. So tell them everything they need to know.
Everything you need to know to come on the Historical Society Cemetery Tour. The tour day is Saturday. This year we're doing a Civil War section where we have someone representing the Union and someone representing the Confederacy and talking about different Civil War veterans buried here, and you'll get to hear Civil War buffs debate the issues. We also have a section called Babyland, which is a section of very small headstones that are markers for burials of children who died in 1918 and 1919 due to the flu epidemic. We also have a section called Halloween Around the World. And in this section, we're highlighting several different cultures and how they celebrate similar holidays to Halloween. We're focusing on Sicily, Sweden, China, and Mexico. To go along with Dia de los Muertos, we're also having sugar skull decorating for children.
Now, you said parking in the cemetery here. What if there's not enough parking?
There's some parking south of Willow in the side streets that you can also park there.
Because the cemetery is located, what, between California and Orange?
Yes, on Willow Avenue.
And anything else that they need to know?
It's a great day. You learn about Long Beach history. You learn about historical events throughout the world. And fun day to learn all kinds of different things and support your local historical society.
Which indeed we need the support of everybody because as many people might know, we recently moved and moving is expensive, and so come out and join us and support the Historical Society. And let's go back and say hello to our other two guests so that everybody can recognize them. I think they're probably ready for their close-up now. All right. Give us your names.
Hi, I'm Karen Harper, and I'm an oral historian.
My name is Linda Nishida, and I'm a docent.
And you're going to do a different presentation on Halloween?
Yes, absolutely. For this cemetery tour, we're going to tell you about the Moroka family.
Ah, interesting.
Oh, fabulous story.
Anything else that you would like to add about the cemetery tour?
You've got to come out. It's a fabulous day. And thanks to Karen, I'm learning more and more about my heritage. And the segment that you just heard is special to me because Kimiko Tachiyama was my babysitter.
Really? Oh, so it's a family history there.
Yes.
Oh. Well, okay, we're going to see all of you out here at Sunnyside and Memorial cemeteries. All right, the cemetery tour this year is going to be on Saturday, October 27th. It's going to run from 9 until 1. Prices are $18 for non-members, $15 for members, $5 for students up to 18, and children under 12 are free. Parking is available in the cemetery on a first-come, first-served basis, but there's also off-street parking, and there will be plenty available. And also, this year, for the first time, the Long Beach firefighters are going to be giving us free hot dogs. At the cemetery tour, there will be 10 grave sites which will be profiled. One, of course, being William Wilmore, plus 9 other interesting individuals who have a history to tell. The cemetery is located at the corner of Orange and Willow, so be sure and come and join us on Saturday, October 27th, from 9 to 1 for the annual Historical Society's cemetery tour. You'll have a great time, and it's a lot of fun. See you there. Well, okay, we're going to see all of you out here at Sunnyside and Memorial cemeteries on October 27th. And you're going to see some exciting presentations, and you're going to learn more about some of the history of Long Beach. And that's our show. Thanks for watching. Come back again next month as we take another walk through history and uncover more Long Beach treasures.